8 it is. So Jeremy, 30 episodes. You started out with a goal of you're going to complete 30 episodes. That was how long ago? When did this journey officially start?
That's a good question. It's been at least 6 months, I think.
Once you're not
Yeah, so
distracted.
June.
June?
Yeah,
Dang, dude.
so
That's
6 months,
yeah,
6, 7 months.
6, 7 month journey of publishing. So you went from literally re-recording your first 3 interviews, your voice, so that you sounded better because you're talking to these amazing people, to the point that we're sitting here live looking like mad professionals. And more than that, your style of interview is much more comfortable. It's much more relaxed. We're going to dive into that, but why don't you take a second and remember, like, what was it like those first 3 episodes? Remember your voice, your ums, your ahs. What was it like back then in June?
Yeah, I mean, before starting, I was very nervous to put myself out there, and this is equally as nervousing to be sharing live here, unedited, and especially to my personal Facebook page. Uh, but it's been a journey, and the first 3 I had to edit myself. So like every time I spoke, all I did is ask questions to the guest. So I would ask a question, the guest would talk for a while. I would ask the next question, the guest would talk for a while. So there's only a couple moments where I talked. And in the editing software, it's easy to see that because I have 2 audio files. And then I would just see where I talked, go to that point, cut it, say what I said there just more confidently.
Yeah.
And then that was good training to get a feel for, what I would like to improve in. So it's a good like activity to do just in general. And it made me feel a little bit better about putting content out. And then after the first 3, I told myself that I wasn't allowed to do any editing, and it's just I'm gonna have to make mistakes. And there's still post editing, so I cut out like ums, uhs, empty spaces, or maybe if there's like a major mistake and we had to repeat during the interview. But for the most part, it's been pretty raw.
Well, that's what you said. And what I just learned was that episode 29 was the first one that you just put the intro and the outro on and sent it out without editing any of the interview, correct?
Yeah.
Is that
So episode 29, literally all I did was crop the beginning and end, and then I recorded an intro, outro, put that in, and then put it out. So I didn't even re-listen to it. So I don't even know what mistakes I made in it. And that's the first time that I did it unedited. And then this last interview, episode 30, I needed to test this live streaming software. So my way of testing it was just to do a live stream to an empty audience, which was the Twitch account. There's nobody that follows me there.
okay?
So I live streamed an entire interview to Twitch, and that's out there right now, just in a raw format.
That's so awesome because you went from literally doing it and not just like editing out, but redoing everything you said to an episode where you put out, you can re-listen to it. I think that's really huge, man. I mean, it's been such a journey. So let me ask you, we kind of covered them. What are like the biggest things you've picked up along this journey from editing yourself to being here live?
I mean, I think comfort's definitely evolved a lot. I mean, right now I'm uncomfortable again because this is a live stream. But at least the last couple interviews, maybe 10, I was pretty comfortable talking with the guests. And even the flow changed a lot when in the beginning I would ask a question, wait for an answer, ask the next question, wait for an answer. Then about 5 or 7 episodes in, I started diving deeper into a question if I felt I could get some value from diving deeper there. And then at around episode 20, I started just having high level things that I wanted to ask, but not necessarily have a specific questionnaire to ask the question a specific way. So I would just be like, okay, I want to learn about your barriers, and that's all I had in mind, and I would just dive into that topic from a higher level. So I've been doing that for the past about 10 interviews and been getting practice with that, and I think it's a lot more organic conversations that way.
I think it feels that way too, to me. I mean, I always liked the value that I was getting, but like now it just feels like you're having the conversation and going deep in it rather than trying to structure the conversation. And like you said, you had structured questions to a structured question with flexibility for deep dive to, okay, let me just be present in the conversation and go in these places that should hopefully add value, right?
Right.
And it really, like I said, I was listening to Love Out Loud, it was Love Out Loud, and it just the conversation went just so much different than the other ones have, and I think you've come a long way with that,
Oh,
and
thanks. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of guests, and at the end, that especially more lately, they've been saying that they've really enjoyed the conversation and been having fun with it. Whereas in the beginning, it maybe didn't feel like that because I didn't get that comment as much. And after every interview, I ask like, where could I improve or how could I be better? And I'm getting more positive comments now. Just people saying like, I like how you're not following a structured format. I like how you're listening well. I like how you're diving deep where you want to dive deep, and getting comments like that as opposed to maybe like more constructive where I used to get.
I think what's really interesting about that is in listening to the conversation that you just had for 30 that you did live yesterday, we were listening to some of it, and one of the feedback that he gave was how he liked that you had questions ready. But you just said you don't have questions ready.
Right.
So just like just think about that for a second.
I thought about that.
What
Yeah.
he really liked is that he felt like you had questions ready for him. There was no pause. There was the right pause for him to speak, but there wasn't like a long extended pause where you thought of something to come up with. And so the fact that you were having an organic just drop something, the fact you were having an organic conversation and felt like you were ready for the stuff, I mean, that's a pretty big jump. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an awesome comment because I didn't have any questions ready. I mean, maybe I think I recall some moments where he caught that because maybe there's a silence and he's done with a thought, and I helped move it on. But it could have been just going from talking about topic A to topic B, and I just knew the next point that I'm trying to drill into, not necessarily the specific question for it. So in a way, I had question prepared, but it's more of like a soft preparation as opposed to like a rigid.
And the question came to you based on the topic and the conversation so far. It came to you quickly. So that's a new skill developed over 6 months of hard work and 30 episodes, hard won. I mean, doing all the things, just seeing what you're put into this, but then all the editing that you've got to do and all the promotion that you've got to do. There's been a ton learned there. So, and that was that's how you improved interview wise. What else is um, have you learned about? What else is important showing itself to you now that you're 30 episodes in?
I mean, I would say that I like how the flow evolved. I think it flows a lot better now. So we just talked about that. The community aspect feels lightly present, and I could see potential for community moving forward. Sort of like, yeah, just like this guy SUV RVing who just tuned in.
Hey.
Yeah. I feel like he's like a new friend, and we just had a little over hour conversation. We had a decent amount that we talked after the interview, but it's pretty cool. Like it opens doors. I can reach out. Now we've got a conversation with someone that's like-minded, and slowly making some new friends and a new community. And I think that means a lot.
That's so awesome. I know that community's been, like you said, when you first started, it was one of the reasons you started was to meet like-minded people, and and realizing that some of these people are so huge, and that it's a pass and go relationship or an exchange of value, but and some unintended consequences being created that you don't know about,
Right.
and then some people you're going to form different relationships with. You're going to get to be friends with, who knows with what. And I think that's really awesome, and I'm proud of you for getting to the next step, wanting it to see where it's starting to unfold. Really awesome.
Yeah, that's with the guest side, and then also the listener side. There's Paul, who has pretty much left a comment on maybe half the episodes now, and it's pretty cool posting a episode and just seeing that, like, you know, having an expectation that I might have a comment on an
Yeah,
episode.
can I talk about my favorite comment from Paul?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So where'd where'd Paul go? Uh, my favorite one was content like this makes life feel a little less shitty. So thanks for that. Well, thank you, Paul. That's a huge shout out because that's really, really it's just it's those comments help me keep going and people signing on right now and hanging out with us. I mean, it's got to feel really good, right? This is what you were kind of hoping would be starting. And 30 episodes in, you didn't know if you were going to keep going. We know now that this is something that's taken over much more of your life than you thought, like in your motivations to do it. And that's really awesome. But I'm so glad that the community is starting to come together for you.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't know what else I was going to talk about. We actually, you know what? Why don't you talk about some of the statistics, right? Like where
Yeah.
are you now? Statistics was never your goal, and I think that's important, right? Like when we talk about where you are at the 30. So let me backtrack from second. You talk about the 30 episodes. I think that's so important, right? Your baby step strategy to get better, and so now. You weren't worried about statistics, so you didn't have an expectation. So you can't be disappointed. But looking at what's going on, I think you should be pretty excited. And so why don't you kind of let us know that even though statistics weren't your goal, kind of where are you with it?
Yeah. Well, basically, I mean, my goal is just to keep my head down and get to 30 interviews, and that's hard to do. To, you know, get 30 people that have their own platforms and their own audiences, and I've been pretty fortunate with the size of some of my guests and, you know, the authenticity of them. So I'm happy that I just like met that goal, and I didn't really try getting a bunch of listeners. I know people that have podcasts with less episodes with significantly more listeners, but that's not necessarily the goal. It's also a self-development project for me, and, you know, the fact that I had to re-record myself in the first 3 interviews to, you know, now being here doing a live stream and seeing that how vulnerable live streaming is, and then just like, you know, if I want to live stream future interviews and have people actually on there at the same time, then I'm not doing any post editing. So it's still a self development project for me. But yeah, I mean, I feel fulfilled to have hit that 30 interview mark.
Yeah, well, and we're going on that journey with you, so that's cool. So let's go over some of the stats. What do we figure out with the average downloads per episode?
So we're at about 130 downloads per episode, and that a download is technically someone pushing play on the episode, and that doesn't include YouTube, which has maybe a couple. But on the actual podcast, I get about 130 downloads, and they could hit play and back out, and that counts as a download. But I still think that at least half of those people are listening to like 70% of an episode. So I feel pretty good about 100. So 130 per episode times about 32 episodes now is just over 4,100 total downloads for the podcast.
Dude, over 4,100 downloads. Like even people just attempting, and even if a third of those people listened all the way through, right? That's huge. I mean, it's I don't know what I expected. I had no expectation either, but I'm super proud of you, dude.
Thanks.
I think that's something to be proud of. You had a challenge. You're 6 months into it. And, I don't know it is as to whether or not you're on pace or what you think, but you worked yourself into a challenge with JLD, Entrepreneurs on Fire. You met him at a podcast conference and got his information and was like, "Hey man, can we come up with a challenge? Or if I hit it, you'll come on." And so, what was that number? What was the challenge that he came up with?
So he actually accepted giving me a challenge, and he said if I hit 2,400 downloads per episode, he would come on the show a year from now. And I'm 6 months in, and I'm at about 130 per episode. So I'm pretty far away from hitting that goal, but I still feel like I'll shoot him an email at that year mark and just be like, "Hey, this is where I'm at, but I'm still, you know, moving towards this goal," just to keep the conversation going, so I don't just come out of nowhere in a couple of years and be like, "Hey, I finally hit the goal. You remember me?" So I'd still like to shoot for that goal, but I'm not on any kind of specific time frame to hit that. I think it's a pretty stretch goal to get that in 6 months, especially since this isn't my
Yeah,
full-time gig or anything like that.
no, that makes sense. But but like ironic, I mean, it wasn't on the radar 6 months ago when you did this, but you got kind of halfway there in some ways in 6 months, right? What uh what did happen in relation to like well you just say it. It's
Yeah,
good.
sure. So I'm working my way to getting JLD, and I actually met his wife at a podcast conference, Kate Erickson, and she does all the behind the scenes stuff. And she also has her own podcast, and she's written books, and she does public speaking. So she's an influencer herself.
Absolutely.
She's an awesome person and just loves helping people. And I had some conversations with her, and then she also agreed to come on the podcast. So I had her on episode 27. Interviewed her
Yeah.
here on the podcast. So
So
JLD's
if you can't get one, then get the better half, right?
right.
If you can't get the half, get the better half.
Yeah, and she does all the behind the scenes, so she probably brings a lot more value, you know?
That's it. That's it. So I don't know. I think that just I was asking you where you were. Like, actually, man, I had a wife. I'm like, what? So that's so cool. Like totally unexpected and exciting. So congratulations on just keeping with it and going after these awesome people. I've gotten a ton of value from the level of people. I mean, it makes it hard because the guests you've had on provide so much value and are doing so much. That's like, oh my gosh, who's gonna top this and stuff. And but as as your interviewing skills get better, so you're just gonna draw more and more cool stuff out when you're
Yeah.
talking to awesome people. So
And bring like sort of the goal moving forward is to do more live streams, assuming the guest is cool with it. And so I think having a video component will help with like YouTube, and then being on Twitch just opens up more avenues for people to tune in than just the podcast, which it's been. And then also with the software, I can screen share. And so actually in the last interview I did when I was testing the software, I interviewed David from That Dude in Blue. He's got about 1 million YouTube subscribers. And then he was talking about his origin story. And he's like, I've got an old YouTube channel. It's like got a couple videos. And I dug that while he was talking and found it. And it's like him as a kid doing lightsaber fights with his neighbors. And then he talked about his origin story for his current channel where he does car reviews. And so I pulled that up, and it's like his first car review was his old car that he was getting ready to trade in to
cool.
test the sort of the market for the interest in that kind of content.
Okay.
So it brought another component to the podcast, and I think that it's going to be more than just a podcast. It's just going to be multi-platform in a way.
Well, and multi-platform because ultimately you want this to keep gaining momentum and turn into a movement of some sort, right? Like we talked a lot about unintended consequences, right? Your term for when you do something and it affects somebody in some unexpected way. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool about the community, right? And when they're interacting with you, with each other, like you're able to create these extended unintended consequences. And I know that one of your big things is to help unlock hidden knowledge, right? To help introverts and others get this knowledge that's locked up within them and share it with the world, with collective consciousness, right? So that we can have mattered before it's too late, right? It's so cool because you're in self-development, but you're putting your time and effort into creating something of value for the rest of us and then for the world at large. And so I'm glad you're expanding.
I mean, for the podcast, like I have no foreseeable methods of how it can generate revenue, and that's sort of the intention with it. But what was I going to say?
But as far as movement, right? We were talking about
Oh,
you're not making money for like it is. It's about the journey of yourself. But I think there's also a bigger journey since we've been talking. There's a bigger journey behind what you're doing and a bigger message.
Yeah, it almost feels like because there's been some people that have contacted me saying that it's made a difference for them, or they really like the contents and helping them. So like it almost feels like volunteering for society in a way, just creating content, pushing it out there that I don't expect anything from.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, putting out value that like just putting out something of value from a place of I'm not trying to get anything back. I'm trying to do the only thing you're trying to get back is to get better. But you're trying to get better so you can give more. So like that's not like if that's selfish, like cool, be selfish, right? Because you're like I said,
Yeah.
you're it's not about the money that you're trying to make. It's not even necessarily about a defined impact that you're trying to have yet. It's just you have a focus of where you want to have an impact. You understand that you've got a lot of information and knowledge
Yeah.
within you that hasn't been shared. You understand other people do. And
I found that my communication skills have been getting better with it, and as a result, like say for example, earlier today, I was sitting down talking to you about what you're up to, and just having better communication skills or being more willing to interject and just like hold my ground on things, I think has been helpful for just being able to help other people from a entrepreneur standpoint. Sort of like the masterminds I go to, and I just go there and I like help other entrepreneurs and just be firm on them and like this is what you need to do, and they're like, okay, thanks so much for sending me in that direction, you know.
it's when that's a real gift. Like if you guys don't know, Jeremy's got a brilliant mind for business, but he helped me with clarity. Like I get all these ideas, but like to help me understand what I need to do next over the next 2 weeks so I'm clear and I feel focused and energized and excited about what I need to do because I had such clarity. But in order to do that, he had to interrupt me in my brash, like in my mind that wants to keep going. No, that's not where we're going. We're going here. But it didn't feel like aggressively forceful. It just felt like you had control of the
Yeah,
conversation.
and diving deeper too. Like I'd be
Yeah.
like, you've got these 8 different options that you're working on, and how do I find which one you're most passionate about? And I've just got to dive deep into all of them and see where that lies. So I
Have
think that,
questions I didn't know the answer to, right? Waiting for me and then reframing
yeah,
so I could get it.
I
And
think the skills have been applying to other aspects. So I don't really know where that goes, but
no, I don't either. But I mean, in the mastermind groups, you're able to be outspoken so that you can deliver your value because you've got like that's the area where this is a self-development project. That's the area where you have expertise and you have that you've been helping people, and so it's just nice that you can help on another level. So
yeah,
it's gonna pay out to universe, to collective consciousness in all these different ways. uh, and so I want you to talk a little bit more about community. I know that's one of the challenges. You love people that are starting. You just want to be able to reach more people and talk to more people and hear. I think most importantly, hear from more people like Paul and that are commenting. So, what are some of the things you're trying to do? What are some of the challenges you're having with community?
yeah. I mean, I think one challenge is, getting people to be on multiple platforms following so that they can engage in multiple ways. Sometimes maybe, every platform's flooded with people. So if you make a post on LinkedIn, maybe they don't see it, but if they also follow you on Instagram, then there's a higher probability that they will see a post and engage on it. Another is, for the guests that I have, it's pretty hard to get guests to share. Out of the 30, there's been a handful that have shared, and usually it's not on their main platform or in any big way. So I don't have any episodes that have like spikes in attention or anything like that as a result of a guest. And I mean, I've had multiple guests with, very large audiences.
You know, real quick on that, I don't interrupt, but it's funny because we were talking about that earlier today, and I was like, but like I've listened to these interviews, like the things you're bringing out of these people. I didn't necessarily know them before, but I feel more connected to them because I'm hearing their story. We're going in deep. And I was wondering, like, have any of them reached out and told you, like, oh, somebody from my community's reached out, whatever, and like, I don't know, but literally like an hour ago now, but like it was like 30 minutes before we started, we looked and somebody had put this comment.
Yeah, it's
I,
on Tristan's.
yeah, I've enjoyed watching Tristan's videos for some time now and really was pleasantly surprised to learn more about him through your interview. You did a great job. And it's that pleasantly surprised. When people have an audience, they feel like they know them and they know them on some level. But then when they can get to know them on a different level, especially when it gets into why they're doing stuff, it can connect their audience to them even more. And I think that we need to let you know, the people that are coming on know that like this is an interview by a lot of people say this is an interview that elevates yourself, right? You don't position yourself as the guru. You try and make the guest stand out, and and that's what you do. And I think that if they really understand how much you do that, as opposed to other podcasts, then
Right.
they understand how much you did that, they might be a lot more willing to share it. You gotta let people know, you know,
Yeah,
how.
I mean, I don't think I do necessarily the best way of articulating that. You know, I'll send an email just saying, "Hey, your episode's live. Here's some artwork from the episode, and here's some thing you can copy and paste if you want a easy way of sharing." But it's always hard to get them to share. But I've had guests like Coco Bassi. She had an Instagram with about 180,000 followers, and when we talked, she has a fashion page, and when we talked, she was talking about how she's much more passionate about another subject and how she's starting to ramp up YouTube, and it's going to be more of her authentic purpose that's going to be in that. And you know, if she was willing to push it a little bit harder with her community on Instagram, I think that you know, those super fans per se that she has on there are going to be like, oh, I want to hear her on podcasts, and then they're going to hear this story about why she's doing what she's doing, where she's headed, and the fact that she's over on YouTube now with a more purposeful and, you know, why. Then I think that, you know, maybe she'd be more prone to share if I portrayed that more. But that's just one example.
That's a good example, because if people understand the why, then they feel like they know you on a deeper level, and then they might connect and be like, oh my gosh, I like you, even like I didn't even know you were, I like you even better. So uh, what was this? What did Sam say?
It's one thing to consume someone's content. It's another thing to hear more of the actual person behind it.
Thank you, Sam. That's absolutely true. And so that message, right? Just reminding them of that. And when you're saying that promotional, the takeaway, you know, takeaway that you got, right? That was special. And then a moment maybe where you spotted vulnerability that you think will really connect with people, or something you learn that was, wow. So just something you can do, especially afterwards, after when you're sending that information and you know them and whatever, you can just reiterate some of the value that you got, that you really think people, it's outside of what you normally do, but I feel like there's, you know, you
Yeah.
get so much value that you can
Yeah,
get.
I think that's stuff that, like, you know, I can tweak along the way, and haven't necessarily had the focus or cared that much if someone shared. I mean, I could tell if someone shared because I'd get an extra like 20 to 50 listens on an episode than normal. Um, and then if I didn't see that they shared it, maybe I'd follow up once or twice and be like, hey, you know, you said you shared, do you mind sharing? But I'm not going to hassle these people because my goal is not necessarily views at this point. It's just to get to 30. And
Yeah. Well, you're there now.
yeah.
So what are some of the goals going forward? Nice. We got somebody new on here.
Yeah.
Improve. How you doing?
I think that moving forward, I mean, I had this challenge of hitting 30 with my head down, and you made a challenge. I think after we did like 10, the first 10, you said, well, after 30, let's do a live stream.
If it was 10 or 20, but yeah,
And so now we're here doing a live stream, which has pushed me to be more vulnerable.
I'm feeling there.
And I guess moving forward, I want to do more live streams with guests. That way it can maybe feel a little bit more like there's a community aspect. I mean, it's pretty cool how people are tuning in and posting comments on this. And then it gives an opportunity to maybe have a guest, if they're willing, to promote the time that we're going to do the interview, and maybe some of their audience can come tune in to the live interview and interact with you know, the person that they're consuming content from.
Yeah.
So the live streaming is one thing, and then it's going to be more raw, unedited content style. And a lot of people that I've talked to, like Rady's Rides does a good job of this, is he is create like a templatized system that is a little bit more scalable. And I think that creating these intros and outros is also a bit of extra work. So I might maybe incorporate trying to do the intro live with the guest to introduce them, and then maybe have like a small recap at the end with the guest as well. Just that way that there's less post editing that's required, and I think that would help with, scalability of.
Yeah, we're talking about how like you always ask for advice, but the way that this platform works, you'd have to keep it live, which you know we have no idea like what they're gonna say, how it's gonna be, but I think it could be really cool to hear some of the feedback firsthand, and then hear your idea on it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. SUVR being said, I can't speak for the other people you've interviewed, but sharing something like a podcast is difficult when your main following isn't text-based. And I think that's true. I mean, if you've got a YouTube channel, it's a little bit hard to promote a podcast that you're on. I think I had one person like shout it out in one of their videos, but he said he would, but I never saw it, so I don't know if it actually happened. But it is a hard ask to get things like that. And so if you're a mainly Instagrammer, but then you have mainly a YouTuber, and you have an Instagram as well, I mean, you're gonna have maybe some of your more super fans on Instagram. Yeah, significantly. Yeah.
I don't watch. I mean, I don't watch a ton. I listen to a lot of audio because I'm always moving, whatever.
Right.
So it works for me, right? But some people want to be able to see your face and see our faces, and so it's easier. That makes perfect sense, and it's easier to recommend from one platform to the same platform for growth. But I mean, you're just like, I just know you're trying to help open up like the communication of unintended consequences as well, right? So because I know that's part of why you want.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to share it. I mean, I have a guest that signed up today. Actually, he's got 1 million YouTube subscribers, and on my form, when people sign up, there's a question: are you going to do you intend to share it with your audience? And it says no, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I've got an opportunity to interview someone who's been through this whole journey, and the fact that they're not going to share with their audience doesn't matter to me.
And that's what it is. You're trying to provide value to whoever is listening, right? I know you're not trying to stretch out who that is, and I think also it's where I don't know if I said a brain fart. It's where you're coming from, though. It's not about. So I just know that like you want their audience to be able to see them in this light and to understand, like, so that we can maybe open the door for unintended consequences. Because if they know the why behind the influencer, or they can say, "Hey, just want to let you know, like since the conversation of unintended consequences came up, this is one of the ways you've impacted me." Because that's really what a part of your community you've always expressed to me when we deep dive is expressing unintended consequences, bringing them to light, so that we can be more motivated to share this information, having no idea who and how it's going to impact them and help them. So I mean, I know from our conversations that's where you're coming from with wanting to share to bring out connections, right? And
and it's common that you may have 1,000 people that are tuning in, but you may only hear from one. So you have to assume that people are there listening and that they're applying what you're doing without really reaching out. And it seems like people get more unintended consequences the larger they get. I mean, the people that I've interviewed that have over 1 million followers are getting them daily. Yeah. So it just depends.
No, it's really cool. So I'm glad we got the perspective on. I totally forget that it's hard to cross platform, and so I'm glad that was shared with us. And then that's a challenge. We have a little bit of challenge with the community. We were getting into it a little, not getting into it, but Jeremy is trying to build up the community on Discord, and Sam's the only one there. So, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't even know who's on there. Why don't you do Facebook? And Jeremy, would you like to tell me how you feel about Facebook as opposed to the?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to be on Facebook is the main thing. Like, I never was a big fan of. Yeah, thanks, Sam. I was never a big fan of Facebook groups necessarily. I mean, I've had guests like Mark Deal that is really successful in creating Facebook groups, specifically with podcasting. But I just would rather take longer to build a community and have it on a place that I'd rather have it on. And if people are willing to go a little bit out of their way to join, then I'd rather wait for that. In Discords, that here's I've got some people agreeing here. Mostly it's like the younger generations, the people that are following maybe communities on of YouTubers, or especially on Twitch, are all going to be on Discord primarily.
Okay.
And so I'm just sort of premeditating that and
Yeah,
just
no,
letting it take its
I'm late
time.
to the game. I'm not on Facebook yet. I don't like it either. And it's too, I have to have a separate tab so that when I go to Facebook, I go just to the ad manager, because otherwise, like, I'll lose an hour.
Yeah.
So I get it. I mean, I was giving you a hard time because it's like, well, where are the people? That's where they already are. But what you're saying, what you said is the people that would spend a little bit more effort to meet you over there, like, they're going to be way more important to you because they're making an effort to meet you over there.
Yeah.
And you see yourself spending more time. So that was the important thing you said to me that kind of changed how I was feeling about it. Is you're like, but the thing is, I'm not going to spend time on Facebook because I'm going to get frustrated. I'm not going to want to be there. And
Yeah.
I don't have a community that I'm not involved in.
Right.
And so I really respected that. I'm like, I like that a lot. And that makes sense why you're going to,
Yeah, I mean, I probably, if I did Facebook, I probably have a couple people by now in there, as opposed to one person. It's my sister.
We love them.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I just wouldn't end up spending time, and maybe I'd spend time there to initially as it's getting going, but then I just would start to lose momentum because my passion isn't to be on Facebook, and so I'd rather just start somewhere, go slower with it, and let people join Discord as they feel it's fit.
No, and I respect that. And also, though, you've also realized that anywhere somebody comments or leaves a review feels like community, right? Any way that you can hear back, right? And I know it's hard to get people to do all that stuff,
Yeah, so getting, like, comments on YouTube video, or a comment on Instagram, or even likes or comments on LinkedIn, all those, I get notifications for. I don't get a ton of them, so I'm seeing everyone, and I'll reply to everyone. That's very important feedback I've gotten from many guests, is that you need to reply to every comment, and it's not many for me, so it's not hard to track. But that does feel like more of a community, and I can see who's liking things, and I know who's part of, like, the support network when it comes to that regard.
That's awesome. What I just did is looking for where the community is, right, and then growing it from there. And if it's and then we'll direct it, to Discord so that you can have more interaction there, and and yeah, so that's where we were with community. And so anybody, we just want people to leave comments, right? To leave some shout outs, whatever. Let Jeremy know.
And there's some people that aren't engaging. Like, I've got Crystal's friend has made comments like, I'm seeing all your emails, but I'm just not replying or engaging. So, like, there's people that maybe are seeing stuff that aren't clicking like or aren't commenting, that I know exist out there, because I've heard of at least one.
Okay.
So I think that's
Nice.
interesting too.
That's really good. So what are some of the other challenges that you face? Like, one of the biggest challenges ongoing is guests, and I think a lot of it's because you are meeting such high, like, every person's setting these high standards, right? So it's not easy to get the people that you're after. And but you said, like, a track record right now that you have 30 episodes, and you got high caliber people. So where do you think you're going to move forward? Like, what do you think you're going to do moving forward to get more guests? Are you trying to ramp that up? Because at one point you were talking about being able to do one a week. I mean, where are you at with guests?
Yeah, I mean, I still think I'm a little ways away from one a week on average, but I think the guests are getting a little bit easier to get, just having more established and being able to say, hey, I've interviewed this person. Like David that I interviewed yesterday, I shouted out someone else that I've interviewed that he knows, and so he made it. I include that in the email to him, thinking that maybe he wouldn't know him.
Yeah.
And then just being able to include that person's name, saying, I've interviewed this person, I think you'd be a good fit too. Sort of open doors to get another big guest. And now I've got two people, and that's potential for reaching out to someone else that could be part of their community that know at least of those other two people, and be like, hey, I've got these two people I've interviewed. And so I think some cold emails have some potential. Just, it takes time to sit down and look up people and send cold emails. And sometimes it takes a while. Like David, I emailed the beginning of December, and now it's mid-January. So it took him just over a month to reply to the email. I forgot I even emailed him, and the email came in. It's like, yeah, I'm down. Send me the link to sign up. And I was like, who's David? I had to look it up again. I'm like, I don't remember this person.
That's awesome. I love the insight. Like, I love how you go behind the scenes and talk about, get vulnerable about what you've got going on, your processes, your learnings, your discoveries. Like, and you said, interestingly enough, another one of your challenges is going to be the vulnerability, right? Of live streaming, of not editing and stuff. But I mean, I can tell you personally that, that, like I said, at the end of the episode, when you're talking about where you are and how you're getting better, really resonate with it. And I feel like I'm on this journey with you. And so I just think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, when I posted my first 3 episodes, super nervous, even re-recorded, and didn't even feel super good about that. And then had to go vulnerable after that. And then even that is just asking questions. I know I'm not that good of an interviewer. And so there's just been a growth. And then now live streaming, I think is going to bring a whole nother component, because then anything you say is now out there. And if there's anything I don't want to be shared and it slips, or maybe like, we just somehow end up talking about it. Like, I've talked to a couple of guests I've had that after we talked, then I went like really deep and vulnerable on some things, and I can just easily chop that and now it's out. But I can't do that on live stream.
Well, we'll probably forgive you if we get a little bit of juicy details.
Thanks. Sam says, you can definitely tell the difference as time goes on. You've gotten so much better.
Ditto. I agree. Just a couple more things. iTunes reviews is the constant challenge for podcast hosts, right? Getting people to do the reviews.
Reviews are hard to get.
You've gotten some awesome ones, right? And people that are reviewing are leaving some really good reviews. But I guess you just have to remind people reviews, and those that, like, I literally have never left a review in my life. Like, you've asked me 4 times.
iTunes is just a hassle. I mean, if I have a friend with an Android device and he's like, if you figure out how to do it, I'll do it. I spent an hour trying to leave you a review on Apple. I created an account, did all this work, and he just could not figure it out. And I feel you, because I'm an Android user. And so, like, I don't even ask people with Android phones anymore. First, I'll be like, do you have an Android phone? And then I could ask if
there needs to be like, so if you have an Android, then leave comments in YouTube, leave comments on the website, right? Reach out and be heard, because Jeremy wants to hear from you. And if you can't do the iTunes thing, you can still reach out and find another way and be heard.
Yeah, because that's one way that guests can sometimes gauge the size of a podcast. It's a general way of gauging the audience size is by seeing the number of reviews on iTunes. That's how I use it. If I talk to a podcaster that maybe asks to come on the podcast, or just in general, and want to gauge like the approximate size of their audience, I could look up their podcast. Maybe they have 300 episodes and 10 reviews, and maybe it's hard to tell. They could have a big audience, but 10 reviews sounds a little low for that long and established podcast. But on the other hand, I've seen people with thousands of reviews, and that's just insane to me, because I've got about 34 right now.
Well, that's still pretty good. So and that wasn't one of your goals either, right? So we want to get more reviews just so we can get the interaction, and you can keep getting better. And again, I liked what you said back at the beginning. If you've got constructive feedback, still try and leave a 5-star review and give the feedback, because you're always trying to grow in this process. And that's what's been that's been exciting.
And backtracking real quick, SUV Irving left a comment asking, have I mentioned the Discord at the end of any podcast episodes? I've done a couple. I haven't pushed it super hard. It's in the descriptions and it's in the footer of the website. And I've probably shouted out maybe in 5 out of the 30 episodes. So I haven't pushed terribly hard.
All right. Thank you for the question. That gives them the answer, that if you want the call to action, you got to repeat the action that you want.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to pick the one thing that you're trying to have people do, and Discord might be the thing, right? As opposed to the reviews, or it's follow, But I think that was a valid question for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we talked about the movement side of it and unintended consequences and helping people uh, share their hidden knowledge with the world. And what are some of the goals? So now we made it to episode 30, and you did your 30 podcast. You actually did 32 because we've done so.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So what's the next set of goals? What's next for Jeremy? What's next for WhyInfluence?
Yeah. So I want to keep pushing myself to keep growing. So the live streaming is one component. I want to start live streaming the interviews, and if the guest isn't comfortable with the live streaming aspect, I can do it offline and just upload it or do some editing if necessary. But push for live streaming more interviews, and I think that'll push me to be more vulnerable and to, like, I don't know, be better communicator because I can't edit, I can't say ums and uhs as much. And then the other is a lot of podcasters do like solo episodes on top of interviews. So I think that, several people have told me that I should try doing some solo episodes, and I feel like, I probably won't be the best at the beginning. So similar to this challenge of getting to my first 30 interviews, and I feel like I'm a pretty sufficient interviewer after 30. I guess I'll set a challenge for getting 30 solo episodes without a time limit, but just if this was a full time
to do what I gotta do. I mean, he took a picture of the deadline for me. He's like, "Hey, let's get a new picture of the page with the deadline." I tried to get one for you guys, but he wasn't having it. But
I've got other obligations that I can't commit, but yeah.
No, so that's awesome. So I'm excited about those 30 episodes, and I can give you prompts for at least 10 of them from
Thanks, man.
things that you've said that are exciting to me that I want to know more about, and also, summing up, you're putting together your different takeaways from the different, you've got 30 different takeaways that you did at the end. I mean, you've gotten so much value putting them together and diving more into the takeaway or how it's impacted you now 4, 5, 6 months later from getting that advice. So that's something you could do for the solo. And it's going to take time because it's not what you do, but the way that you think through things and the way that you use baby step strategies for things. And there's a lot of value there. Not everyone. We're hearing that you're getting better as an interviewer. We're connecting with you, but there's all these things that are about you that are naturally just different from me, at least, that made me go, wow. And I want to hear more. And I think other people will get some value. I'm so really excited about that 30 episodes.
Yeah, and I think I'll probably also tweak how I'm sharing it, because right now I haven't been pushing very hard. I do like one post for each episode. It historically was mostly just an image that I had an artist draw the guest, and then it would be the image for the episode. But I think there's a lot of, especially old content now. I've got 30 episodes, so I can revisit some of that and maybe create some quotes that can be a little more evergreen type of content. And then just maybe approaching it a little bit better, trying to be better with explaining the value for sharing it with the guest community. So, a lot of them will feel more connected with the person that they're watching the content for. If live streaming opens up the component that, if the person's willing to share it ahead of time, then maybe they can share it before and then have the conversation, interact with some of their audience during it, and then share it after. So, there's different things that can go into, growing the audience that I'll slowly go into over time. I'm not in a rush for that. Just sort of easing into it because it takes time to do all that. And I've got other commitments that take my time. So.
Well, another thing too that's interesting, you've mentioned me, you've mentioned Crystal, you've mentioned like different lessons or things you've learned. Like there's sometimes you listen to an episode and it'll be a week later and something will cycle through your mind, right, about that interview. So when that happens, like that would be a chance to jump on Instagram, repost the picture with a different, with a different caption, right, or a quote from that podcast. Like when it because you're spending so much time and energy and getting such good stuff from your guests. When it comes back and you got it, that's a cue to just remind your anyone who's listening, anyone's looking like, hey, go back. Like, I forgot how good this really was. Like, go back and check it out. So as they bubble up organically, just use that as a cue to re-promote that, because it's not like people just listen once or listen the first month and never listen again. I mean, you're in the statistics, your views seem to be going up pretty consistently. So people discover you and they want more, and maybe seeing your insight might help that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things that have been shared that doesn't hurt to hear again, especially in a different way. I know, like, even for me, like, my journey of trying to be more comfortable sharing, uh, like, even I really liked the episode of Devon because he just makes it sound like it's an obligation to share if you find something that resonates.
Yeah.
So I've listened to his. I'll re-listen to my own episode a couple times, sometimes, just to, like, be like, oh, I didn't even remember that comment. There's a lot of value in each episode, and so just even revisiting one, sometimes there's a lot that's unheard the first time.
That's exactly it. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know. So the goals that we got are more live streaming and offering that to people, and to do 30 solo episodes for some length of time. And
yeah, it sounds like we're getting close to an end. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them in.
That's what I was gonna say. Is there any questions for Jeremy? Like,
we got 7 people watching right now.
Nice.
But you have anything else?
I think I'm bored at this point. I don't know. We talked about so many awesome things. Like I said, I'm just going to get redundant at this point. I've been enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying watching you. One of the comments over here was what was it? That's a good one. Favorite ice cream.
I think as a child it used to be chocolate, but I like the cookies and cream is pretty good too.
Cookies and cream. Like, does that have to be like officially Oreo cookies and cream, or like do you have a brand, or you just not?
I don't have enough experience to notice.
Oh my God, I'm disappointed. ice cream. How can you not notice the difference? So I agree. Looking forward to see where you go from here. But somebody made a comment that you're right. What I think makes the show stand out above other similar shows is that Jeremy himself doesn't position himself as the guru of growth, and I think that's important, right? For you're not positioning yourself as the guru. You're coming from a position of just genuine caring and wanting to learn more and wanting to provide value, and I think that's what like I said, that's what I'm enjoying most, and I want to hear a little bit longer about it, right? I want you to be able to go into your learning experiences and how you're progressing with a little bit more than just at the end of the episode. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, I mean, I've got some foundation to that because I've grown a couple business brands and social followings for those, but I'm by no means a guru, especially since each person you talk to is going to have their own niche within social media that they're a guru at. So yeah, everybody has their own expertise.
What I think that's interesting, just real quick, and then I'll stop talking. But the guru word and the influencer word kind of float around. Like, what is that? And so what I like about why influencer is you're helping redefine influence. An influencer, right? It's not just that you have all these subscribers. Everyone has levels. There's all levels of influence, and we,
right.
Nicole, I think from Love Out Loud, we're talking about the different levels of it.
She said if you could influence a room by just walking in there, sitting down, and saying nothing. So just you can be an influencer by just being present, or even if you're not there, the fact that you chose not to go, you just influenced that situation. So she was just reiterating the fact that everybody's an influencer. So people I talk to range from I'm not an influencer, or maybe like I haven't realized it yet, even though they've got millions of downloads on their podcast. But there's other people that really understand about influence, or the concept of it.
Yeah, I think you're bringing, like I said, I think you're bringing a good definition to it, right? And it's the why part of it, it's consciously doing it, right? Like we come into a room and we sit down, and if our energy is super low, we're going to bring the energy of the room down. but if we're not conscious of it, right? And so that's the whole sharing of hidden knowledge, right? We've got stuff and we've got these ways that we can influence, and we don't know how we're going to influence. But we need to share it. We need to get it out. We need to share the things that we don't know are going to impact people because we don't know how the ripple effect of them, right? And so I appreciate the way that WhyInfluence is sort of putting the positive spin back on what an influencer is and what it can.
Yeah, and I try to keep the guests as authentic people. I've had people that I've talked to be like, "Oh, I know influencers. It's this person. They like drive this fancy car and they do this." And then they tell me that they own like a marketing company. And then I tell them, well, you know, the kind of guests I want are people that are being authentic, being themselves, and making an influence in a manner that's making a positive difference in the world. And then I've had people be like, "Oh, well, he's probably not a fit. His reason for influencing is to make money." And if that's someone's reason, I mean, maybe I'll have an occasional one of those, but that's not the goal of the podcast. And you know, if I did an interview and I didn't really like how it turned out, and it ended up being someone that, you know, their goal is money, I guess if I'm live streaming, it's up. But historically, I would have not posted it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you've been doing a great job. I don't have anything else. Thank you for letting me be part. Hopefully now, you know, we can update on your solos or something. I don't want to be host forever. I've been having fun. So thank you for having me. Thank you everybody for showing up on the live stream. You guys are awesome for supporting.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. There's 10 people here now.
That's so great. That's so great. Well,
well, if you made this far and you have Discord, then go to my website, and in the footer there's a link to join Discord. If you don't know what Discord is, but you hate Facebook, then download Discord and go join the Discord group so there can be more people in there.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, well, have a good one, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Look at her. That's awesome. Yeah, look at Sam looking out.
Yeah.
Giving us a real call to action. Thank you.
That helps too. Yeah, go to whyinfluence.com, WHYinfluence.com. All right, see you guys.